Hi guys, it's a beautiful day here in the rainy Pacific Northwest and my trees in my garden are blooming and I wanted to take you all on a little walk and talk about plants for a minute. I'm standing in front right now of a goumi, which is a great permaculture plant. It's both edible and a nitrogen fixer, so it helps make its neighbors really happy. And it has these tiny flowers, which I'll show you in just a second, that are so incredibly fragrant. They're like jasmine. Let me turn the camera around to figure out how to turn. So this is the goumi flowering. It's a little hard to see. I don't know if you can see it if you've got a small screen, but the flowers and the leaves, and you can't really see it right now, but it's also on the stems. Everything is covered. It's getting windy. Everything is covered with these little gold dots. That's a feature of the family, the Elaeagnaceae. So it's kind of a fun thing. This makes berries that are kind of astringent and kind of like cherries. They've got a soft pit in the middle. The birds love them. They're super awesome. The plant is pretty big, so it's way above my head, easily 10 feet in my garden. So if you want to plant one, you want it to have space, but you know, you can cut it back pretty hard and it kind of doesn't care. So I've done that many times. So here's the cherry tree. This cherry historically has given me fruit on my birthday in June. It's usually not quite ripe then, but I like to think it is, so I call it my birthday cherry. Now, with climate change, it's starting to ripen earlier, so it's more ripe on my birthday lately, but maybe things will go back to normal at some point. So it's such a pretty tree. And cherries, aside from being delicious, are useful as medicine, just the fruits themselves. So the fruit is high in compounds that are basically the same as melatonin, which you might know for sleep. So taking a bunch of cherry juice or having some stewed cherries before bed may help with sleep. They also help lower uric acid, so people who have gout, which is a painful condition of the joints caused by buildup of uric acid, eating cherries regularly can help lower that. So right under my cherry tree, down we go, down the side of the cherry tree. And cherries also have this really distinctive bark that's kind of like little lines going across it. Anyway, I think it's kind of cool. So right underneath my cherry tree, I have planted, you're seeing all the weeds, I have planted horseradish, which is an amazing spring medicine. And it's growing with some cardamom, which is in the same family, the mustard family. So these little greens are edible. But this guy, this is the horseradish. And it's used traditionally in spring. So in the Jewish tradition, it's one of the bitter herbs that's used for Passover. And the root is super pungent. So if you've ever had horseradish or wasabi peas or wasabi in a Japanese restaurant, you know it's really pungent and it goes directly like up into your sinuses. So it can be really useful for any kind of sinus congestion or even sinus infections. But it's also used, the root, in food. It helps promote digestion. So if you're kind of, like if you think of it in the traditional sense of winter, you've been eating things that were kind of heavy and not a lot of fresh vegetables. And there are cherry blossoms in my horseradish. So if you've had a winter where you're eating a lot of foods that are fatty and not a lot of vegetables and fiber to keep things moving, having horseradish as a condiment in your food or in your food in other ways can help really get stuff moving again. Because it's so pungent, it's so strong, it also will help kill things in your food that might sicken you if you didn't kill them. So it's a really important and powerful medicine. And in the spring, when it's still small, it's got these kind of lacy leaves when it first comes up, and then it gets these secondary or bigger leaves that can be, in my garden, they're easily like 3 or 4 feet tall. And it just lives under the cherry tree. People are afraid to plant this because it spreads. This is the only place I've ever grown it, and because it's shaded by the cherry tree, it may do better in terms of not spreading, but it's not something that will go away. But that also means that you can feel comfortable harvesting it and not worry about over harvesting it and not having any anymore. And the last plant that I want to show you is one of my very, very favorites. This is an artichoke. You can see all my weeds in the yard. It's still early spring. So this is an artichoke plant. You can see the leftover bits where the buds were last summer. Here's another one. And I love artichoke for so many reasons. When I was growing up, my mother is the kind of person who eats pizza and sandwiches with a fork and a knife. And the only thing that I was allowed to eat with my hands were artichokes. So I've always really loved artichokes. But as a gardener, usually in an urban place, I haven't had a lot of space. So the idea of growing a plant this big just for a couple of buds didn't seem like a really good use of garden space. But then I learned about herbal medicine, and the part that we use in herbal medicine is the leaf. So this whole thing. Now I have small hands but to give you perspective, this leaf is pretty big and it's still early spring. So it's used, I use it mostly in my practice as a bitter to help stimulate digestion for people. But it also has profound effects on the liver. So in the same way that milk thistle supports the liver, artichoke can do the same thing. It has many of the same constituents while also having that bitter action that helps make digestion go. So thank you for joining me for a little meander in my garden, and I hope you're having a great day, and I hope it's beautiful where you are too. Bye.